Welcome, welcome back to one of the final episodes of Crafting a Meaningful Life. So I really gave some time and thought into those people that I wanted to have on as I was approaching this, because, I've had almost 450 people on this podcast. And I wanted to give some final thought as to who would I love to sign off with. And so these last few episodes are really the people I see in complete alignment with me. Maybe not in every single thing, but in the majority of how I live my life and what I'm about. I wanted to have those people on. And so to that end, please welcome one of my dearest friends, Dan Clark. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
How are you, Mary? You're one of the truly beautiful souls on our planet.
Oh,
It's just amazing how, if you and I added up the actual number of minutes that we've spent belly to belly and person to person, it's not a lot, but we immediately had instant chemistry and we aligned. Using your word, we were in alignment immediately, kind of mind, body, spirit, soul. And so it's an honor for me to be on your podcast. I've wanted to chat with you publicly for a long time, so they know. So your viewers, your lovers, that didn't sound right. Those who love you.
I can accept that. I have a lot of platonic lovers.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Dan, do you remember where we met?
Yeah, I correct me if your recollection's a little different, but what happened is I have two dear friends, Christina Huntsman and Liz Clark. And every time they would invite my wife and I to one of their galas or one of their special dinners or one of their functions.
Or a child's wedding. I mean,
weddings. Yeah, thank you. It was always unequivocally catered by Mary Craft. And so having never met you, I could see your commitment to integrity first and service before self, and especially excellence in all you do. One of the greatest compliments I would pay you is that the way we do one thing is the way we do everything.
Yeah.
And practice as an athlete, I played football, basketball, baseball, ran track, the whole deal. I was an All-American.
I know, you're 6'5", you're fabulous. Yes.
So what happens is if you don't practice at the highest level possible, you can't expect to perform on game day at the highest level possible.
Cool.
We practice like we play. We must play like we practice. And from a professional speaker's perspective, that means I've got to be the same off stage as I am on stage, or I have no credibility.
Yeah.
So every single time your name came up, any time that there was I call it an expose of magical delights. I mean, your food and your presentation was so over the top. I always wondered when I would get a chance to meet this woman and actually get to know why she has this commitment to a higher level of excellence, where you exceeded expectations at every event, all the weddings. Remember, 4 weddings with my sister-in-law and weddings with Christina and dinners. And then I was hosting an event at the scholarship box at the University of Utah. And it was a huge event. It was going to probably be 300 people, 350 people. I was being honored by the United States Department of Defense. It's a huge deal. And they told me that I must use Mary Craft as the caterer, because you had the exclusive, unique contract with the scholarship box at the University of Utah football stadium.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's who I would have called anyway. And then the event was postponed and you decided to hang up your cleats and you retired.
Yeah.
So I never had that event. It was at a different venue. But yes, and I think, so now you know my recollection of you, but I can't remember when we first met, because I was probably a bumbling idiot going, oh my gosh, it's Mother Teresa. Oh my gosh, it's Jacqueline King. Oh my gosh. So.
All right. So I'll tell you when the first time we sat and talked to each other. It was at a gathering at Sandra Fann's house.
I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ah,
I mean, we knew of each other before that,
yes,
but
ma'am.
this is the piece you didn't know. That while you were going, oh, I mean, that's Mary Crafts, I was like, that's Dan Clark. Uh, Am, am I going to presume to go up and talk to him?
You're so bad.
Like, like he knows me? Or should I go up and introduce myself? Because there's one of two approaches. You walk up and go, hi, how are you? So good to see you. Or you go, hello, I'm Mary Crafts. I believe you're Dan Clark. I decided to opt for the first one. And I walked up like we were best friends. And I was like, Dan, hello, how are you? So good to see you. And
I remember.
you played it right back. You were like, hi, Mary, how are you? So good, you know?
I remember you. And if I can pay the ultimate compliment to you, when you walk in a room, in the entertainment world, we have the it factor. She has it,
Ah,
he has it. And either you have it or you don't. And you can't train it, you can't teach it. You either have it or you don't.
ah,
And when you walk into a room, your presence, your soulfulness just exudes, and people stop and say, who is she and what does she do?
ah,
With all due respect, it doesn't have anything to do with your outside gorgeousness and beauty. It has to do with
it doesn't.
something that's
Yeah,
intangible, is something that's ethereal that basically says, wow. It's like this glow that just kind of walks in and lights up the room. And when you leave, people notice. And in the lyrics of one of my hit songs, my love song, Real Man, isn't that the purpose of every relationship? Isn't that the goal of every relationship, personal and
yeah.
professional, to have everybody leave us saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. I like
I
me
love
best when
that.
I'm with you. I want to see you again. That's Mary Craft 101. That's Mary Craft
Uh,
303.
I think it can be taught. And it can be not taught like you're going to have class 101, how to be it when you walk in a room. That, you're right, cannot be taught. But what can be taught is how to own your own power,
I
not
love
to
it.
walk in thinking about, oh, I wonder what they're going to think of me. Or I wonder if I'm dressed like everyone else. Or will I say the right thing? That can't be taught. But when you walk into a room and you just hold on to the power of who you are and willing to stand naked in front of your peers, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, socially, perhaps not physically with all of them, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
with all the other four that you can stand there like you're naked, that
Yeah.
is the it. That is the it. When you have someone walk in the room, they just have that awareness of who they are. That
Yeah. And
can be, that can be learned.
maybe, yeah. Now I love what you said, learn. So maybe because I said you can't teach it, you can't, it must, what I'm hearing you say is it must be developed. It can be developed and it must
Yeah.
be experienced. And once you develop yourself, once you become, how about a great quote? You need to know whose you are before you can know who you are.
Ah,
And when you're connected to the universe, when you're connected to a divine source, Almighty God, as I
yeah.
call, once you know whose you are and you understand your divine potential, you're endowed with these spiritual gifts of forgiveness and love and respect and honor. Uh, Maybe that's
Yeah.
where the development process begins. I know you have helped so many men and women develop this it factor. So I'll retract my words as far as you can't teach it,
But you can
but
learn it.
you can learn it if you have the right person like you who can turn decades into days. Not just talking about the what and the how, but the why and the want. If your why is bigger than your why not, you can really get into that personal power. I hope we can talk about that in a moment.
You
But
know,
I
Dan,
saying,
this thing, I know that as a speaker, you've had this experience as well as I have had, that when you come off the stage and people are coming up and they're going to talk to you, that they say this. I don't have men say this to me, but I have women say this to me. when I grow up, Mary, I want to be just like you. I want to be you. And I always smile and I accept the compliment because it's meant as a compliment. But then I look them in their eye, and most of the time I'll grab a hold of their shoulders so they can't move their gaze. And I said, ah, and that's the beautiful part, is because you already are. If you weren't already the same being that I am, you wouldn't see this in me. You'd see something else. You would be jealous of me. You would see boasting in me. You'd see a narcissist in me, because that would be what was reflecting from you. But the fact that you see this beautiful, loving individual means that you already are, or you wouldn't see it in me. And that moment of recognition in their eyes of when they like, I already am. That's me. I just have to own it. I'll tell you, that's the greatest joy. That moment when I see it in their eyes.
Yes,
And I know they know.
If I can share an experience to validate that, yes, men will come up to you and say that as well, even though you said just mostly women. Let me share a story. So I was the first speaker at the very first women's military symposium in Washington, D.C., and I was the only man in the room. So I walk into the huge ballroom, and there are 3,000 women in military uniform. God bless my soul. And I'm introduced to speak, and I decide I'm going to flatter one of my dearest friends, 3-star Air Force General Maggie Woodward, the first female combatant commander in the history of any military conflict in the world. Amazing. And I'd spoken for her when she was a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. She was in charge of Air Force One. I mean, she had some amazing commands. And so in front of all these women, I start my speech and I said, with all due respect to all of you women here, I just want to acknowledge that 3-star General Maggie Woodward is one of the finest female general officers in the entire United States military. Wow. And all of a sudden, Maggie stands up and interrupts my speech. She says, Danny. So I knew I was in trouble. She goes, Danny, I'm not one of the finest female general officers in the United States military. I'm one of the finest general officers who happens to be a female, and don't you ever forget it. And I said, yes, ma'am. Right. So here's my point to you. My second compliment to you. Men can only be role models to a man, but women can be role models to both a man and a woman, because you can get men to do things that other men can't get us to do.
Yeah.
So when we start itemizing leadership qualities and our power of influence, let's not make it a gender issue ever again. You are a role model, Mary, to so many men and so many women and so many children and so many athletes and so many people who can't cook. Their idea of culinary excellence is toast in a glass of ice water. And yet you still inspire us. So please, that's another one of my hot buttons. I am on this crusade. I'm such a fan of women in business. And when I meet extraordinary women and they come to me because, Hall of Fame speaker, and I have this program, Speak Like a Pro, and I can help you with your storytelling. And they come to me and they say, we want to be, I want to be a professional speaker. Can you help me? And I'm like, absolutely. And then where it goes crossways is I say, so who's your target audience? And they say, I want to speak at women's conferences. And I always say, I was a keynote speaker at the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Conference, and I was the only guy on the program. You were? Like, yeah. Every single stage I've ever been on should also be occupied by an amazing woman to make my point. So instead of segregating who we think we can influence, a role model is a role model.
Yeah.
And you are a role model, my dear, even though you're I don't even know how tall you are. You're 10 feet tall to me when you walk into a room.
5'5". I'm not very tall.
Yeah, and I'm 6'5", so that's perfect. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. And
You know, the
I,
women
I feel
watching,
like,
the
go
women
ahead.
watching, you'll realize there's so much more than perhaps focused just on women's issues. I spoke at a women's conference at the University of Illinois in Champaign, 7,500 women in the arena. And the only two speakers were me and Dr. Phil.
Whoa.
And afterwards, I was in the green room. I had about an hour and a half before I had to catch the limo to ride back to the airport. And so I'm in the room with all these powerful women who had organized and created this event and conducted and executed it. And they finally said, "Hey, so what do you think? Because I've been there all day." And I said, "Can I make a suggestion?" And the woman in charge says, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Every man in your life should have been here today to hear what I heard." And she kind of grimaced and she said, "Well, that's the challenge. If the men in our lives were here today, we wouldn't have talked about what we talked about." I'm like, "No, there's your challenge." So to your point, be naked emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Let's just connect. Back in the day, both of us are old enough to remember the accusation, "Man, you got to get more in touch with your feminine side. Come on, guys." This toxic masculinity, that really bothers me, where people are trying to beat up men. What we have to do is focus in on a genderless agenda and say, how are we supposed to be? Loving, forgiving, listeners, compassionate, empathetic. All of those are genderless qualities that you possess, that I hope I possess, and that's why we connected.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really all about, that I believe is the Mary Craft difference that you've made in every community, in every meeting, in every room that I've ever been in with you.
Wow. Thanks, Dan. That's why I see us so much alike, is because that is exactly who you are. No one ever meets Dan Clark and thinks, "Oh, there's a guy. I'd love to know what he's really like. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in his house." No one ever thinks that.
Thanks.
Now, do we say that about other people that we think about? I mean, you could think of a dozen people just like that you think I'd like to be a fly on their wall in their house. But that's not the case, because people know that, the old phrase of, we walk the talk, we talk the walk. It's the same.
And you're the expert with your background. You're the expert in the recipe of love, the recipe of forgiveness, the recipe of elegance, sophisticated elegance, polished professionalism, Mary Craft. You're all on the same page in the dictionary.
Jeez, I should have had you on here every week. I don't know what I was thinking. But I know that it's authentic, and I know it's genuine from you.
Yeah.
And the same thing with when I told you that, as I chose you, this is before the podcast started, I told you I chose you to be on this last month of my people. And why I chose you, because my one goal was to have Oprah on someday. And after 8 years of podcasting, and she still hasn't accepted my invitation, who else did I want on this podcast before I ended? And it was just very clear to me. I want Dan Clark. I want Dan Clark.
You are.
And I reached out, and you just said, absolutely. Send me the invitation whenever you want it. I'm like, okay, there you go. Done. And you mentioned something that I think is a key piece for me and for everyone. I think it's a key piece about this idea of excellence. When I was in business, it was one of my founding values and a grounding value to bring excellence, not perfection, because perfection can never be reached at an event with so many people and so many variables. To think that you're going to find perfection, oh, what a stressful situation. But that I could bring excellence every time I showed up. Excellence with my staff, excellence with my food. If something went wrong with something, I had an excellent solution of what to do instead, and that was such a driving value for me. But it wasn't, Dan, until I retired that I realized that was just a smaller piece of a bigger value that I have. In fact, what I now see as my purpose in life. My purpose in life is to simply be my very best, whatever I can be. Not more, not less. Not perfect, but my very best. But the greatest part about this is people say, well, that's kind of a narcissistic approach to life. It's very focused on you. And I said, well, actually, it's just the opposite. Because my very best self wants exactly the same thing for you and for everyone.
I love
My
it.
best self isn't that I have more than you. It's that we get to be the same, the one. That's how I have this mantra of oneness. It's
I
not that
love
we
it.
are going to be the same. It's that we are one. And that has brought me to a position beyond excellence, to a position of simply my best. And I want that for you too.
I love it. You know, I've thought a lot about, I'm a wordsmith and I've written my 37 books, and I think a lot about
37 books.
haha. But
Jiminy
I,
Christmas.
I contemplate words a lot, and a lot of people, you brought up the word purpose. A lot of people interact, they amalgamate the words purpose and meaning as if they're the same.
Oh,
And you explained it perfectly, but may I just give it a title? The
yes,
purpose of
please.
life. This is Dan Clark 6 and 2, but I agree with you. I'm just using a different word.
Yes.
The purpose of life is exactly what you say it is, to become the very best version of yourself.
Yeah.
The meaning of life is
Is
how
it?
you take your best self and help others become the
Uh,
best version of themselves. So purpose and meaning are not the same. Purpose, it relates to every single person on this planet. Our purpose is to find our divine destiny, to tune into to the universe, to the plan of happiness, become everything we were born to be, because you're going to make allows with somebody else.
yeah.
But the meaning of life, not everybody catches. There's a lot of folks just kicking back on their self. There's a lot of folks complaining. There's a lot of folks who are not engaged in service before self. There are a lot of bigots. There's a lot of discrimination. You're putting somebody else down to make themselves feel better about who they are.
Oh,
All of this chaos, all of this turmoil, they're not catching the meaning of life. And the meaning of life is created. The meaning of life is created by our outward look on others of how may I serve him? How may I serve her? How may I lift them up? When John Huntsman Sr., he gave me one of the greatest recommendations on my flagship book, The Art of Significance, Achieving a Level of Beyond Success. He said, a person strengthens him or herself greatly, or the greatest way in which a man or woman can strengthen themselves is to reach down and lift someone else up. My own little commentary, but obviously we're in alignment because I just threw in a different
yeah.
word.
I really love that, Dan, because it is the same thing we're talking about.
Yep.
And that when we are able to do that for ourselves and for others, there becomes this unity of what we're about. It's no longer us and them.
Exactly.
It is only us.
You know, a few years ago,
Everybody's path is different.
yep. A few years ago, I had a chance to soar to the edge of space in a U-2 reconnaissance aircraft. So I had to train for 2 months, 2.5 months. I lost 29 pounds. I checked onto the base, was fitted into my 130-pound spacesuit, went through 2 days of complete orientation, introduced my commander, and we climbed aboard the aircraft and immediately climbed over 17 miles above the Earth's surface, where for over 5 hours I sat in the sounds of
Wow.
silence, looking at the breathtaking curvature of the Earth, you know, gazing into the endless blackness of the universe, pondering eternity, my place in it. And it was crazy because I'm very philosophical. I've read one book a week for the last 16 and a half years, and I really am proud of that. And I couldn't help but tear up my space helmet and become an eyewitness to the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "The mind once stretched can never return to its original dimensions." And when we landed after the 5-hour sortie was over, I was never the same. And, in my TED Talk, I explained that when I landed, I would never be the same because when we took off, I was never an environmentalist. It was always my air, my water, mind your own business. And when you finally see the curvature of the earth, when you finally get in that atmosphere, to your point, you realize it's our air, it's our water, it's our earth, and we have the same stewardship to take better care of it. But more importantly, Mary, I realized that every border, every landmass border in the world, on our globe, on Earth, is man-made, not God-made. And so we're killing each other in the name of the same God who organized and created the earth. And in reality, we are literal brothers and sisters in the family of humanity. And once we understand that, I think wars would end. I think conflict would minimize because we're looking at someone as a brother, as a sister that we can argue with in our homes, but at the end of the day, with the rebound rate, we still love each other. We still lift one another up to become the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that one 5-hour experience changed my life forever. I look at life in segments now. I segregate every day. Today's day one. How good can I be today? How much service can I render today?
Yeah.
Because I really believe we're really and truly brothers and sisters. So I look at you, I mean, there's the suggestion you got to be friends before you can be lovers. Well, yeah, vice versa. So, I look at you as a beautiful woman, sexy, sassy, smart, strong, all of those wonderful romantic terms. But I also look at you as a soulful sister,
Yeah.
created for the same purpose that I am, to become the
Cool.
best I can possibly be, to help you become the best you can be. And when the water in the lake goes up, all the boats rise together. So again, I think we're just validating why we're in alignment. I love you. I honor you so much.
Thanks, Dan. That's why you're here, because I feel the same.
Huh.
I look at any problem in the world you can throw, and when I put this out, of course, there's always, the naysayers who want to put something out there to show you that you're wrong, And the most used description, if you're going to compare anything to anything, the number one guy is always, well, what about Hitler? You know what I mean? Now, I'll tell you, he may have fulfilled his destiny just to be that for us. To stand up and say, I'm what you don't want to be. Now be your best self.
Yeah, you can be an inspiration or a horrible warning, like Keith Richards.
Yeah.
He's an inspiration as a guitar player, but he's a horrible warning that you should never take heroin, Come on.
There's a lot of those guys out there. Let me just tell you, right? What's the guy from Eagles? Joe
Walsh.
Yeah. And I went to a concert, a couple of their concerts in the last couple of years. And this one, you'll like this. He says, this is what I can tell you at this age in life, because he's in his 70s. He goes, it was better to be in your 20s in the 70s than to be in your 70s in the 20s.
That's funny, yeah.
There's a guy that, rode life hard.
Oh, yeah. Was put away wet. Yeah, we know that feeling.
Yeah, we know that feeling. And, when I think about all those people through life, you really can see the universal principles through all of these things. And the counterfeit things that people put in place to find that one and only thing, Dan, which is love, acceptance, worth. And so we go about crazy ways of finding that.
Yeah.
Even Hitler himself, in the end, was looking for his own version of love and acceptance and worth.
Yeah.
And in order for him to be of worth, he had to make so many other people less than.
Exactly.
And couldn't we just say to everyone, wouldn't that be the way? Listen, drug dealer, I know you think what you want is power and control and that you want money at all cost. But in the end, what you really want is this. And is this going to take you there? I mean, if you could talk one-on-one with enough people, Dan, you and I and a bunch of others can change the world, which is why in our 70s, we're still doing what we do because we know of the ripple effect.
You got it. Absolutely. Think about it. So you're reminding me of, can I just tell you a little background of one of my stories? I mean, one of my books. So of my 37 books, my flagship book was published by Penguin Random House. It's still my number one best-selling book.
Yeah.
And it's called The Art of Significance, Achieving the Level Beyond Success. I brought it up a moment ago. And when I finished my book tour, I realized that the number one most frequently asked question was, what's the difference between success and significance? And I answered it with this story. I was in a conversation with one of my football teammates who was drafted into the National Football League in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, he was really good. And after 2 years at the Eagles, he was traded to my Oakland Raiders. And after 4 years in the league playing at the highest Pro Bowl level, one day he walks out of practice, quits, never to play again. Why? He loved being a football player, but he hated playing football. He got what he thought he wanted, but he hated what he got. He loved the celebrity perks and the fame and fortune that allowed him to live a life we call successful, competing against others. You know, nice house, nice car, nice, holidays, nice toys. But because his inner voice and his true purpose in life and meaning in life was misaligned with what he did, and because he hated what he had to do to become successful, he would never, ever become significant, and he would die with his music still in him. So bottom line, successful people get what they think they want, competing against others by focusing in on what matters at the moment. But those of us who are striving to live lives of significance by competing against ourselves and what we're capable of, actually want what we get by focusing in on what matters most, which is what lasts the longest.
Yes.
So I always like to throw Stephen Covey under the bus a little bit and cause a little discussion. His book, 7 Habits, I knew Covey for so long.
Yeah.
We interacted, had so many conversations. And one of the 7 habits is to begin with the end in mind. And if you think about that, Mary, it creates a limiting belief, because if you begin with the end in mind, it forces you to focus on a destination that's impressive, doing your best to manage people and reward results, which means if you fail, you're a failure. What would happen if we began with the why in mind, which invites us to focus on a journey that's important, which allows us, empowers us to manage expectations and reward effort? So there's never a destination. Back to your point, you strove for excellence, not perfection. And in football, not every play is designed to score a touchdown. One play sets up the next play, which sets up the next play. And eventually that running back in the Super Bowl yesterday, even though this is evergreen, in the Super Bowl, eventually that running back breaks through the line of scrimmage for a 30-yard scamper to score the game-winning touchdown and defeat the other team. So momentum is only as good as your next play. We need to understand in the concept and the construct of motivation, of self-discipline, of striving for excellence, that we can call it something that gives it a higher value. It's not just successful It's not just being successful, it's striving to live a life of significance, which makes everybody else around you better. So, as I said earlier, they leave us saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. So, when you came in to cater an event, your food was so elegant, your commitment to excellence was so obvious, but you took the event from successful to significance, which can't always be put into words. It's that feeling, it's that it factor that we began talking about. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving here. I'm entering and feeling like a king and queen. I'm leaving saying, my gosh, that was one of the most elegant, most amazing experiences of my life. Why? Well, food, presentation, expectation, dress, all of those things have everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Especially with the fact with the Sandra Fan idea where we first met, we become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most. Jim Rohn was absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Which means we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings, even online.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that people often ask, in fact, I just had this asked to me last week. I was on a panel discussion. What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Oh, yeah.
I've had that asked, as you have. Like, I've changed that answer so many times I can't even count them. It's like, this week I would tell them this,
Yes,
so last week when I was asked, I told them, I'd tell my 15-year-old self, fail as often as you can. And the whole room just kind of went, and I said, because in the failing is where the lessons are. It's not sitting on a beach in Bahamas. There's no learning there. You're just having a good time. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to transform who you are, go through the school of hard knocks. And in fact, I've started putting that at the end of my name. Yeah.
I love it.
Because I don't have any titles at the end. I don't have all those, names, those letters, So I started putting.
If you always learn, you never lose if you always learn. Think about it.
Yeah. I love that phrase. I can't remember who said that. Somebody important. That I don't ever fail. I either win, I succeed, or I learn.
Yeah.
Who said that? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Some coach. Some football coach. Anyway.
Probably Nick Saban or
somebody like that.
They
but
also,
I think that when I was little, and actually through most of my catering career, I was so afraid of failing that it pushed me to excellence. And when I realized that my fear of failure was creating a pseudo success, I could stop and say, this is not serving me. It is serving others, pseudo, but it's not serving me. I want to be here and show up because I value the 3-legged stool. I value service. I value presentation. I value the food quality. That 3-legged stool has value in and of itself. And I am not showing up here so everybody can say, look at Mary. She is so damn good caterer. She is so good. I showed up that way for 20 years, but fine to show up because by showing up as my best self, I then create the very best experience for you and your guests. And that's true service.
And your greatest satisfaction was being at the back of the room, hearing farm animal noises every single time someone picked up one of your delicacies and went, oh,
I love that.
I love one-liners. Failure is an event, not a person. Once we quantify the things that hold us back, it's so much easier for us to understand the process is okay. So failure is an event, not a person. If you're not failing a few times, it means you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Pressure is not something that's naturally there. It's created when you question your own ability. When you know what you've been trained to do, there's never any pressure. under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training. That's why we train and prepare and practice so hard.
Yeah.
So I love it that you were driven by this awareness. You were afraid to fail, but you also in the back of your mind said failure's not an option. But then you said fail a lot. I would say fail fast. So it all makes sense to
It-
create that end product again, not beginning with the end in mind, beginning with the why in mind.
yeah. Yeah.
To make sure every single recipe was exactly the same. My mom, she had her own catering business, Ruby's Catering. She has her own cookbook, pretty famous up in the Avenue.
Absolutely. I did
And,
not know that was your mom.
yeah, and she specialized mostly in sweetbreads and desserts, just in exotic cookies.
Yeah.
But with her, I was around her enough to realize, and I want you to comment on this. She would have people call her, pretty famous folks, and say, "Ruby, my cake, my cookies, my date nut pinwheels, whatever, they didn't turn out like yours. What happened?" And my mom would always just take them through the checklist, just like you said, the three-legged stool. And as I recall, the number one reason it never turned out like hers was because they used lesser quality ingredients.
The
They
quality of the
didn't pay
ingredients
for
you
the
start.
premium ingredients, even though they followed the recipe. They didn't put in the right thing at the right time for the right reason. So that makes you an expert in self-development too, Mary. I want to interview you for a second. Teach me what you've learned about influencing others in your glorious way from the mindset of a chef, from the mindset of someone who has a recipe, but if people don't follow the recipe, they can't expect to get the same result that you promise.
Mm. When I think about that recipe and having success, it is, first of all, people ask me all the time, why is the food in Italy better? Do they have better recipes than we have? Do they have better chefs than we have? Actually, no. There is one and one reason only, and that is the quality of their ingredients. They go across the street to get their meat. They go to the cheesemonger down on the corner who makes their cheese. They get their butter from the local farm. Their greens are harvested and brought into them daily. They have a plethora of quality ingredients that we will never achieve unless we live on a farm. That's why it tastes different. Their chefs aren't better and their recipes aren't any different. But maybe they add a little bit of love because they're connected to the land and to the people. And that Italian kitchen is still where you see the mama. Gather the meat, come in. We're going to have a nice pasta today. I make all day just for you. Everything that went in your mouth was made with love.
Wow.
And served with love. And that's the final key to ingredient that it's really hard to replicate. Maybe you can replicate the ingredients, and maybe you can replicate the talent that went into it and the talent that displayed it. But it has to come in here, the love.
So maybe that's the
to serve it.
metaphor. We have to be aware of the ingredients that we're putting into our minds, into our bodies, into our spirits, into our souls. Why people should listen to this podcast and all 450 previous episodes. Why, energy, we think about energy coming from people, but it also comes from spaces. It also comes from environments. When I was in space, it allowed me to think differently than I'd ever thought before.
Yes.
When you're in a locker room before a game, you think differently. When you go to an elegant gala, an elegant wedding that you've catered, you cause us to feel differently, to think differently. And
You know what?
Wow.
The greatest catering experience I ever had was when Ralph Becker, who was the mayor of Salt Lake, said, I have a big event coming up. And these people are coming here to decide if they're bringing their conference to Salt Lake. I said, okay, I've catered a lot of things like that. I got that. And they said, but these people have dined around the world. They've had the finest restaurants in every kind of Michelin star that you can imagine. Okay. What can you serve them that they will always remember? And I realized that it was not going to be what I served them. So I designed the room where all the chefs were in the center cooking and the people were around the outside. Normally you put the chefs in the back. I put them dead center and put people all around them. And then the whole night, as they would cook their food, I went around with a microphone and talked about where I purchased these ingredients and what I grew and this chef and what he's skilled in and the method that we made this. And this is being torched. This is sous vide. I explained to them that. I said, and we're going to torch it right here. And we got the chef got out their torches and torched the outside of that meat. And I explained the whole thing. I would stop at the tables and talk to them. At the end of the dinner, the head of this organization that came motioned me over. I went over. Hello, how are you? Very gracious, blah, blah. And he said to me, in essence, what we know, and we've heard so many times. But what he said to me was, you know, Mary, a year from now, I'm not going to remember. This is the finest meal I've ever had. That's what he started with. But a year from now, I'm not going to remember what we ate. I go, that's fair. And he said, but I'm never going to forget how I felt. I felt seen and cared for and loved. And he said, thank you. And I took that message back to my team. After all is said and done, it's how we love them that matters. That's the experience that every single person we entertain is looking for, that they are seen and that we care about them. And it changed how I catered. It changed my life. Just that phrase he said to me.
What a great challenge for us to create that same environment in our homes. Can you imagine if you could create that culture in a building where people come to work for you, with you, and they leave their dysfunctional marriage, they leave their dysfunctional world, their chaotic society, the fake news and everything else that's bombarding us.
Yeah.
And they walk into your place of employment and actually feel differently, feel seen, feel loved, wanted, important, lovable, capable, and that they can succeed and be significant. This is such a great conversation. I've started to understand self-development, culture creation. Think about it. You know, when I talk to the corporate world, when I talk to Super Bowl teams, when I talk to military commands, I always use my template. Every culture is created between the strongest belief, highest expectation, and best behavior that the leader lives by, and the weakest belief, lowest expectation, and worst behavior that the leader tolerates. And in order for us to improve our culture and level up our culture, we need to shrink the distance between the strongest belief, highest expectation, best behavior the leader lives by, and the worst behavior that the leader tolerates. And in that distance, we turn our culture from success to significance. Yes. And you just hit the nail on the head. You know, send me an invoice. I'm going to bring this up in my speech because the deeper understanding, ingredients, what are you willing to put in to your culture to elevate the expectation? When someone walks in, they can leave their cares behind. They can feel something different and positive and new and know that they're seen and heard.
And embraced.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's the secret. We need to write you a, have you written a book yet? I'm so far behind.
I have written a book. Yeah.
Let's get you another one going right now. This is good
stuff.
This is revolutionary. What you're teaching us is so deep and yet so
simple
and profound, but yet so simple.
So simple.
You know, this is how you fix your culture in your home. This is how you fix the culture on a team. You know, look what Vrabel did as the coach of the New England Patriots. He took the Tennessee Titans 2 years in a row from a losing team, losing seasons, to 2 winning seasons, and then he's the coach of the year in the National Football League. He's the NFL coach of the year, and the Titans fire him.
Yeah.
So he throws his hat in the ring to be hired by the Raiders. They turn him down. Throws his hat in the ring, his resume in for another team. They turn him down. For 1 year, he's in limbo, wondering if he's ever going to coach again acting and getting paid as a consultant. And all of a sudden, the New England Patriots come knocking and say, we want to hire you. And he turned almost a last place team into a Super Bowl contender. They played in the Super Bowl. He did that in one season because he changed the culture. He had the same ball players on his team.
Yeah.
He had the same ingredients, but somehow he elevated their quality, however you do that. You know, like you said, he developed the it factor, but he created that culture, that elegance, that feeling of being embraced, that you matter, your position matters. Even if you're second string and you never get on the field, you matter. And look what happened in 1 year. Because of Mary Kraft's philosophy, maybe you're going to be the new NFL coach in your retirement from podcasting. Wouldn't that be a hoot?
You know, one of the things I love, I've read so many stories about the SEALs, the Navy SEALs.
Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, about how that the night before they go out for their final thing and they tell them, you know, so many of you are not going to make it. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. You're going to see that you're really not who you think you are. I mean, they give them all the discouraging thing that I'm just like, never say that to somebody, but you know, that's what they do. And they say, and if you want to leave in the night, as you're here on the beach, you just go up and ring the bell. And that's it. And you can get out. You don't have to do this. No one's going to know. You don't have to ever tell anyone. Because we don't, you know, chances are, I mean, they're just horrible to these guys. And throughout the night, and you're by yourself, you're not next to anybody on the beach. And but you can lay there and you hear the bell ring. And then there's a bunch right after the first one does. And then throughout the night, as they're anticipating going out, and then they'll ring the bell. And then in this book, the guy said, but in the morning, there were only a third of us left. 2/3 of our team left. But once the mission started, when it was really the hard time, no one left. Because someone else was depending on you. Suddenly, all fear leaves you when people are depending on you. And you're part of a team. No one leaves. And I think that that's how it is on the football field and on the basketball team. Those teams that succeed are those people who see, I matter here, and I'm going to bring every piece I have, leave nothing on the table for this team. Those are the success people.
And team, you know, I do a lot of work with corporations, with sports teams on team building, you know, even the military. And with my maverick renegade personality, I always like to challenge the status quo. Be fun for your viewers to think about team building in this way. I always ask my audiences, I fly out tomorrow to speak to the top wealth managers in Equitable Life in Miami. And they want me to talk about team building because of my unique approach. And I always ask the audience, by show of hands, how many of you agree it's all about team? And we've all been bamboozled to believe that, so we all raise our hands and everybody's going to raise their hand. And I'm going to say, wrong answer. They're all going to go, huh? See, it's not all about team. Teams lose Cleveland Browns. Teams lose New England Patriots yesterday in the Super Bowl. Teams lose my Oakland Raiders. Teams lose New York Yankees. Whoever said it's not whether you win or lose that counts probably lost. Or their teams, their company's going bankrupt right now as we're on this podcast, Mary. Yeah, and they have a team. So the next question is, well, so what holds teams back? Why? What causes a team to lose? And it's because we've been taught there's no I in team. And so now everybody, I'm challenging their status, just like I'm challenging your viewers' belief. They say there's no I in team. Well, there's no I in sucks either. There's no I in last place. There's no I in loser. But if you want to play the spelling bee game, there's 2 I's in winning. The first I represents independent individual preparation. Don't let me be the weak link. I can count on you. You can count on me. I can trust you. You can trust me. I refuse to be the weak link, which means I will do one thing every day to make myself better. The second I in winning represents interdependent collaboration. which is making everybody else around you better, committing to doing one thing every day to make everybody else around you better. So at the end of the day, yes, it is about team. They don't give Super Bowl rings out one at a time, but the teams that win have the greatest number of individual players on them.
Yes.
So the two concluding quotes, which are so powerful, we win and lose as a team, but we win and lose because of individuals. Let me repeat that.
I love that.
We win and lose as a team, but we win and lose because of individuals. I refuse to let them run 95 yards through my 3 field of real estate to score the winning touchdown and defeat my team. I will never let anyone down. I'm going to prepare so hard, come early to practice, stay late, take more reps than anyone else on the field. So we win and lose as a team, but we win and lose because of individuals. And then the most important, which kind of ties a little bow around what we've been talking about this whole time, Mary, the teams that lose begin the game with the goal of winning. The teams that win begin the game with the goal of execution.
Yeah.
Outcomes are a distraction. When we begin with the end in mind, and then all of a sudden we're trying to muscle it, we're trying to force it. Oh my gosh, the time's running out. Blah, blah, oh my gosh. No, when we begin with the why in mind, it's a flow. We get into flow. We get into that commitment to excellence right now. What am I going to do right now? This play right now. So our performance is never predicated on the circumstances of the game or the circumstances of the score of the game. Every football play is about 40 seconds. You have 40 seconds between each football play. There's 60 to 70 in an entire game. And every football play lasts about 6 seconds, which means you have 34 seconds in between the next play to decide if you're going to wallow in the misery of your mistake in the past, or if you're going to let go, learn, focusing on what can I do right now to be the best I can be right now, not allowing the circumstances of the score, the circumstances of the game to affect my execution, my dedication to excellence right now. And when you just focus in on executing, when you just go out on a golf course and say, I'm going to focus on being the very best golfer, one swing at a time I can possibly be, then winning the tournament takes care of itself. Winning the game takes care of itself. So I love talking about team building as you break it down into ingredients. Who are you off the field? Character in the locker room. All the things that we've been talking about apply to championship performance on the football field, basketball, cooking, life, marriage, the whole thing. I think, Mary Croft, we got to help you write another book. I don't know what we're going to call it, but it's kind of the catch-all, it'll be the recipe book for life or something. I don't know, but you figured it out, my friend. You've elevated my thinking and my feelings so much in this call. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I knew you'd do that with everybody in every conversation, but I've never spent this much time talking to you before. You are amazing. Thank you.
Well, those days when I was shifting my perception of who I am and going from the woman who was strangled by the fear of not being enough, strangled by the fear of needing to please everyone, of failure, to discovering not a new me, but who I've always been.
I love it.
Moving from 284 pounds to 140 pounds without surgery or injections. They didn't even have that stuff back when I started this process. It was every day, I'm going to bring my very best self today. And I'm going to leave nothing on the table. When I was at the gym in my big black sweats on the back row, trying to walk 15 minutes on the treadmill, I'm going to leave nothing on the table today. Can you walk another minute, Mary? I would have this going in my head. Is this your very best, or is there more inside that you've always left on the table? Is there? Yes, you can walk another 5 minutes. Go. And bringing it then, not just one day, but every day, allowed me to step into this space that I am now, to be able to be all that I am and invite others to this space. I
And your
want to be here
beautiful
by
posts,
myself.
your beautiful posts in the gym. At a girl. I don't know if
It,
your
it
viewers.
weren't always that way.
It's I had no idea. I'm in shock and awe. That's so cool. What a story. What a journey.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
spilled over into your profession. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. It did. Dan, our time is so far over, I can't even begin to tell you. But I knew this one was going to be. I knew it was going to be. I mean, seriously, if this were like a year ago, I would invite you to come back. But here it is. It's the end. So I'm taking plenty of time here, but I want to ask one last thing of you. In regards to at the beginning of this, when I started down this journey of podcasting, I felt I had things to say and that I wanted to share. But my topic was so broad. I wanted my topic to be, this is how you craft a meaningful life. So in closing, I want to ask you, now that you're close to my age, I'm 72, you're 70, so still we'll say the same. You're at this age in your life, and you've spoken on the biggest stages around the world. Tony Robbins, he has nothing on you. He wishes. He wakes up in the morning and says, oh, if I could just be Dan Clark. You know what I mean? 37 books. I mean, seriously. Okay. I mean, what else is there left to Dan to accomplish? And yet, I know you well enough to know that you are still every day pondering, how will I craft a meaningful life today?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps Dan moving forward?
That's such a great question, Mary. We've all heard it. I've been on panels. I've been in the audience where someone has asked a panelist, what keeps you up at night? And
Yeah.
I say that's the stupidest question I've ever heard. It's what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
What is worth getting up for early and waking up early and staying up late, dying with, climbing, not in the base of the mountain. And I think, I don't want to belabor too long of an answer, but understanding time, I played football for 13 years. I was paralyzed for 14 months. I went to 16 doctors. 15 told me I would never get any better. I would not recover. And my eye drooped. I had loss of speech momentarily. My right side was paralyzed. My arm dangled at my side. 14 months. And now that I fought my way back to a 95% recovery, the three most frequently asked questions are, when I was paralyzed, I lost my identity, Mary. I thought I was a football player when in reality, that's just what I did, not who I am as a man. And my life spiraled downward, suicidal thoughts. I mean, I just lost everything. And I thought I hit rock bottom. Now that I've recovered, the three most frequently asked questions, what do you mean you thought you hit rock bottom? And if your viewers remember nothing else I've said today, no matter how hard times get, no matter how difficult life seems to be, nobody ever hits rock bottom. We hit rock foundation. We hit rock belief. We hit the baseline core values and governing principles on which we were raised. Question number 2, why did I keep going to so many different doctors? I kept going from doctor to doctor until I found one who believed I would get better, who reminded me knowledge is power, but it has no heart. We don't learn to know, we learn to do. Tongue in cheek, all the information in the world is going to make a person successful. It's like the guy who has 3 PhDs, one in philosophy, one in psychology, one in sociology. He doesn't have a job, but at least he can explain why. So, moral to the story, to be disciplined, healthy, and significant, we must be willing, as I said earlier, we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings. Reason leads to conclusions, but it is emotion that leads to action. Reason leads to conclusion, is emotion that leads to action.
Yes.
And then the last question, which is the most profound answer I can give you, what took me so long to pivot? What took me so long to recover? What took me so long to believe in myself again? What took me so long to take action and recover? I stayed paralyzed for 14 months because I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. And once we answer why, figuring out the how to becomes clear and simple. And I don't want your viewers to think that this was a rah recovery. Come on, Clark, be a big boy, cowboy up. No, it was based in neuroscience. So when we only focus on the what and the how, we only engage the head, the brain. But when we add to that a passionate why and a compelling want, which means our why is bigger than our why not, physiologically proven, our blood pumps more rapidly, our brains fire, and our muscles magnify, which maximizes our energy and maximizes our performance. So I have never missed a speech. 6,000 audiences, 79 countries for 40 years. And I've never missed a speech. I've had flights canceled and I've scrambled to a different airline, different carrier, or I've rented a car, driven 7 hours to the Badlands of Nebraska to deliver a speech on the last day of a 3-day conference in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I'm the only speaker who showed up because of inclement weather. I only share that, Mary, because I don't want people to think I'm such a noble man. It's because I lost my identity. I was suicidal. I hurt so badly, no one can even imagine the darkness unless you've been there. And now I know that in every one of my audiences, there's at least one man and one woman who is hurting as badly as I was. And if my story, if my sense of humor, if my passion, creativity, imagination, if my inspirational chicken soup for the soul stories can save a life, keep someone from taking their life, save a marriage, kickstart an entrepreneurial idea with it that could change the world, I have a moral obligation to hop on a plane, to get in a car, and to get there and share my story. So my challenge to your viewers is, you have a story, I have a story, we all have stories, and there are stories, but they're not our stories to keep if we know that that message and that experience can change someone for the better and lift up humanity. So I challenge everyone to figure out a way to become a better speaker, a better communicator. The more successful we become, the more people expect us to share our stories and our messages at the same level of excellence that created them. So take time in becoming that articulate communicator like Mary Craft is, with passion, vulnerable, make it in front of the audience in every possible way. If I can help you as a speaker coach, as a storytelling coach, I want to throw my hat in the ring. But I challenge you to find people in your life exactly like Mary Craft who can lift you up. And you have changed my life forever, Mary. I cannot wait to interact with you more and more and more often. And maybe make a deal with your husband that I'll call him every Thursday morning to remind him how fortunate he is. If you'll call my wife every Thursday morning and remind her how fortunate she is.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely.
Rise. I love you. I honor you. You flatter me. You're one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. God bless. God bless you.
Dan, thank you for being on this show. And for those listeners who would like to know more about this incredible man and why he was selected to be one of the final 4, we're going to include at the end of the podcast the link to his favorite book, to his website, to any social media he wants to share, his LinkedIn, so that you can reconnect and find the inspiration and the joy in knowing this person. And we can't thank you enough, Dan.
Oh,
Really.
It's so funny. I've been on so many podcasts. I've been on Oprah. I've been on Glenn Beck.
You've been on Oprah?
But what we have to do is we still make a hit list. And you said you had a hit list. I've always wanted to be on the Mary Craft podcast. That's my rite of passage. Now I can check the box that I'm finally enough.
Yeah, finally Mary Craft. Oh, my Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Your honesty, your wisdom, you're willing to be open in front of really everyone. I don't know anyone you think in your brain, when I walk into this or when I meet this person, I'm going to have to, because there's no need to ever hide when you know who you are. And Dan, you are the epitome of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't wait to hug you in person.
The next time.
Yes, ma'am. I can't wait. Thanks.
Until next time, to all of my listeners, just be excited about life. Be excited about crafting a new piece, an additional something, crafting old stuff redone again. Whatever it is, we are on this beautiful crescendo of life that we get to not say, well, this is who I am. This is who I'm becoming. This is the layers I've peeled back to see all that's in there. Mary believes in me. Dan believes in me. It's darn well time that you believe in you. Step into this. Step into crafting your meaningful life. Namaste.
Crafting a Meaningful Life.